Guys, happy Monday. Welcome to What's Hot here every single Monday at 11 o'clock. Today, we've got a special guest, one of my favorites, local home builder, Tony Groza with Groza Builders. He's been in business for 39 years here locally. Today's actually the birthday, so we're pretty excited about that. We're going to ask him some questions on the market, tariffs, and a great investment opportunity that may be coming up for younger people. Stay tuned.
You better get fired up.
Well, happy birthday, my friend. 39 years. Not a lot of builders make it that long.
Yeah, we're very blessed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and you and I have talked enough to, I'll share this with everybody else. I think when you focus on making money, it can be challenging in business, but when you focus on adding, value, delivering value, giving to people more than you can ever get, and that's absolutely who you are, in my opinion, I think you're going to have a pretty easy time running a successful business. So really speaks volumes to, yes, the people who are working there for you. You've got an amazing staff, amazing salespeople.
Absolutely.
You've got a lot of great people there, but it really speaks to leadership too. So congratulations. Hopefully you'll put in another 39 and we'll see you growing even more. But congratulations on the big birthday there. Do you got any plans for the big day?
Well, we're going to have a party this weekend at the Model. So, come on out. There's, advertisements everywhere. So we're going to be giving away a bottle of bourbon.
Oh,
I know somebody that likes bourbon.
now we're talking.
So yeah, we're going to have a little party. And then, we have some specials where we're going to give back some incentives for purchasing this month.
Perfect. What's the address of your model and what time are you having the open?
It's over on Savona. I'll send you a flyer and maybe you can post it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'd love to see as many people as possible get over there.
Absolutely.
So there were a couple things you and I had talked about discussing through this video. And just because of the fact that you're a builder and you and I uniquely nerd out over data and stats and everything else, I love looking at not just the housing market, but the financial market. How does it all work together? It's so interesting to me. And you also seem to have a similar interest in that.
I do.
We're looking at tariffs coming up, and I'd sent you, I think I'd sent you a request maybe a week ago, just saying, I don't even know what tariffs are. I don't know the impact. I don't know the assumptions. And you had sent me a video. I watched that video, and I bet you I've watched 30 videos since. Every time I'm working out, taking a shower, whatever, driving in my car, I just want to know everything about these tariffs. It's interesting. I'm interested as a home builder. You're looking at, metal and lumber and screws and bolts and concrete and everything else. How do you see these tariffs impacting you?
It's a great question. And a lot of it is, we're speculating, right? But we spent a fair amount of time talking to our trade partners prior to this year as to what they thought it was going to do. And nobody has yet to think that anything is going to increase. So I was very fortunate to sit in a room with somebody that works for Morgan Stanley last week, and he is like their guy, and he checks out all these different markets and how they all do. And he explained it very well, I thought. Tariffs typically are used as bargaining chips, right? And I think we've even seen that happen. And it's funny because I don't normally watch the news per se, but I did this weekend because of this topic. And so I think it'll be real interesting to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize a lot of lumber comes from Canada. So if they do put a tariff on that product, then, that could affect things. But I think that, and I think you and I spoke about this before, I think that going forward, the prices are going to do nothing but increase across the board for building.
Yeah.
I just don't see any relief from the pricing.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said there. And of course, you're right. It's all speculation. Who knows what's going to happen? But I think it's really interesting that you said you'd spoke with someone from Morgan Stanley, and they had mentioned that tariffs are used as bargaining chips. The market was down significantly today. It was 1.5%, 2% down. I'm looking at the S&P 500. And just, I want to say 30 minutes ago, I just posted on Facebook, the Mexican president came out and said, hey, we agreed with Donald Trump that we're going to stop tariffs for 1 month and we're going to be negotiating behind the scenes. So it's really interesting. Everything I've read, if you get a little bit deeper,
Right.
it looks like the tariff isn't really the goal. The goal is tightening up the border, getting rid of the fentanyl issue, getting some
Right.
security down there. And man, the first couple days it's out, it looks like, at least with one country, we're already starting to get discussions. So that might be a great point that you just made there. Um, it looks like too short term, it might impact some areas of our country, some of the things we buy, certainly not all of the things that we buy. And it also be short term, right? Because eventually you're going to have American companies starting to kick in and they're going to see opportunities for growth. They couldn't compete
Right.
before, they can. So it's all so interesting. I don't know. I could talk forever about this stuff, but I just think it's really interesting. It'll be interesting to see if Canada replies similarly. I see they're taking more of a fight approach than a flight approach, and they're implementing tariffs against us too. So we'll see, but it'll be interesting. But you're not as concerned about tariffs on home building prices. Um,
Not
as
at this point.
yeah, yeah. I really am not either. Short term, maybe you'll see some blips, but I don't think so either. So let's get into something that a lot of people, realtors included, really are not as educated on. And it's complex. And it's something that a lot of realtors just don't have a lot of experience with. Obviously, you've got a load of experience with it. When you're purchasing a home, I'm a home buyer and I'm going to purchase a home with builder A or builder B. And maybe I'm going to use loan product A versus loan product B. There's a lot of different loan products out there with new construction. Talk to me, if you would, about who owns that home. Do I own the home as the home buyer? Do you own the home as the home builder? What risks and rewards for me as the home buyer are associated with who owns it?
So, so much of this is not a one size fits all, right? And so to play out your scenario, if you go to like a national builder, most national builders sell you their home at the end of the project, right? And so you, as the realtor, probably won't be signing like a FAR contract because it's just an agreement to purchase that product at the end. So in saying that, typically those products are not owned by you. Even if you have a contract to own it or a contract to buy it, you don't own it during the construction. You're just agreeing that you'll buy it at a, time in the future. So there are pros and cons. Most of what we do are construction to perm loans, and they have several advantages. Everything has an advantage and a disadvantage, but they have several advantages. You can totally customize the house. You own it the whole time, right? And so let's say, Joe, you want to build a house, but you own the lot. Well, if you own the lot, then you can use that property as equity or down payment for that project. Let's say, on the other hand, you don't own the lot and you need to purchase the lot. Well, first of all, most national builders won't build on your lot because then they don't own it, right? And so
Yep.
most people are not in the situation where they want to buy a piece of property and then close on a construction loan. So, there is a solution for that, and it's a one-time close CP loan. So we can take the lot that you like, which is a huge advantage,
Yeah.
and the house that you want, customize the way you want it, put those together into one package, into a construction to perm loan, and build the house for you. So in that situation, you would actually own the property. We're acting as a contractor on your property. One advantage or disadvantage is that, we're kind of in that game with you, right? And so when you get that kind of a loan, we as the contractor also have to get approved by the bank, right? And so that gives the buyer, it should give the buyer, some comfort knowing that, we also get scrutinized by the bank, and sometimes we have to, produce our financials, or we've been doing this a while, so we have a pretty good track record. So, but in that scenario, you, the customer, owns the property the whole time.
One interesting thing about that, because I've been involved with enough of these to know that no matter what you're selling, from the home buyer's perspective, there's always a challenge, a flaw, an issue, a concern that they just have to deal with. And one of those is one of the most common things I hear is, man, this is the perfect house. I just wish it was over in this area. Or, man, this is the perfect lot. I wish I could just take my house and put it on that lot. And really, this is the only scenario where you've got a custom local builder willing to build on your lot that solves all of those problems. And a lot of people just don't know that you can do that. And it's so cool. And they don't know you can do that because, like you said, a lot of the bigger builders just don't want anything to do with it. They're not going to build on your lot. So it's great that not only are we spreading the education about this, but you are an option for them if they want to do something like that. Um, and
Joe, I just want to mention real quick, one opportunity I think that you and your people could really look into is people that do own property. Maybe it was aired to them, or maybe, they bought it 15 years ago. You know what I mean? And so now they can take that and literally get into the house with no money down, right? And build your dream home on that piece of property. So I think there's a big advantage there.
Will you talk a little bit about the numbers in that situation? Like, talk through that specific person. How do you get into that no money down?
Well, so let's say that you are the buyer and you own this piece of property. Well, the bank will take that as collateral, right? Because we're going to group that together into one loan. And they take that collateral as your down payment because you're bringing an asset to the table. So if that's $100,000 piece of property, you just magically put down $100,000 on this project, right? And so if it's for round numbers, a $500,000 house, you just put 20% down.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that. That's a really awesome tool financially to be able to use that just people aren't as up on. I think that that's phenomenal. I think new construction scares a lot of realtors who don't have the experience, don't understand the complexities. And also, when I'm going against, let's say I'm the buyer's agent, when I'm in a negotiation with a typical seller, it's a seller who's maybe sold 0, 1, 2 homes with a buyer who's bought 0, 1, 2 homes. I think it can be a little intimidating to work with a builder, especially for a realtor, because you want to look good. And if you're new, oh my gosh, am I really that good? I don't know. And now I got to go up against and negotiate with a guy who's been doing this for 39 years. Man, that can be a scary thing. And I think that some of that fear is either placed on buyers or it's not necessarily communicated or shared with them. And instead, hey, let's go look at homes that are already built. And I think there's a lot of missed opportunity there. What do you guys, maybe that's not a great way to ask that. What does the process look like, or what do you guys do differently to build that relationship with a buyer's agent? Let's say it's a newer agent who's never done new construction, or they've done very little new construction. What am I expected to do throughout this process? And is it something that I should fear would be complex and intimidating?
Well, I absolutely agree with you because it is different, right? And so um, I think that, and I have my real estate license, as you know, but if I was going to be a buyer's agent, right? So if you come to us, we really don't need you to do much, right? We spend a tremendous amount of energy training our staff, um, and almost everybody here knows as much as I know to give them. Um, so from a realtor's perspective, it's quite simple, and it shouldn't be feared, right? It's a different process, but it shouldn't be feared, and not just us, any builder, um, especially like when you're building a custom home, it's a relationship. And
Yeah.
so, normally what's going to happen is the realtor is involved and they're along for the ride, and we have a platform that updates everybody every week as to what's the process and where we're at in the process. And, all that's done, via the internet. But it's not hard. And if I'm speaking to realtors, then, it's a great way to whiteboard out what you have coming. Right. So we all know that you can go
Yes.
buy an existing house and close in 30 or 45 days. Um, some of these loan products do pay the commissions up front and some pay them out staggered, right? Because that's how the lender wants to allocate their assets. So it's just another tool in the realtor's toolbox. And I think that sometimes, and probably because of the market that we've been through COVID and the wildfire of sales, it's probably been overlooked. But our sales have been great, and I certainly, very fortunate for that. But I do think for new realtors, it's a little bit scary.
Yeah, and I'll share with realtors listening, two things that I did that helped me with this was when I sold in Minnesota, which was 2 decades ago. I didn't know anything about new construction, just like every other realtor, whoever starts in this industry. And I just went and found two builders that are still my friends today and just asked them a boatload of questions. And I physically visited their homes. And what is this? What does that do? Why do you do this? What does the timeline look like? The loan differences that you had talked about, all these different things. Why does this builder allow for options and this builder, it's black and white? This is what we do, take it or leave it. All those different things were so helpful to learn. I really think every realtor should go do that. And I'll tell you too, especially with the local builders here, I feel like you guys are so easy to talk to. You're so approachable. You've got staff there to help. You've got loads of information that you can go home with them and they can research, but really take the time to do it, because builders who see you doing that are going to like you. They're going to want to work with you. They're going to want to educate you because you're going to make their
Sure.
job easier. Everybody's working synergistically on this. And I think that that's helpful. The second thing I did when I moved here from the Army was I didn't know anybody here. I didn't know anything about Florida real estate, and it is different. There were
Oh, for sure.
assumptions I was making because I used to sell Minnesota homes, and it just wasn't. I'll give you an example. We did not have metal roofs on anything in Minnesota unless it was a cheap, like, pole barn, right? So
Yeah.
unless it was a farm building, which is a lower level building, it didn't have a metal roof. So when I came down here and I saw these beautiful homes on the water, million, $2 million, $3 million homes, and they have metal roofs, I thought, why would you do that? That's crazy. But it's just a difference in what's socially acceptable. And down here too, it's more functional. Whereas in Minnesota, we don't have that. I mean, we got tornadoes, but that's much more sporadic than a hurricane coming through. So
Sure.
it's just one of those things. And insurance down here, that's a whole nother animal. Taxes, the way taxes are handled, completely different. So what I did was I went around and I think I spent 2 or 3 days and I had a list of every builder that I could find. And I just went and talked to all of them. What do you do differently? What do you do differently? Are you the cheap guy? Are you the custom guy? Are you the fast guy? What makes you different and special? And I
Yeah.
wanted to hear that pitch. And I really just can't recommend that enough to realtors. Those 2, 3 days is a blip in your career, and it'll completely change your confidence and your ability to help others and your relationships with local builders here.
Sure.
Um, I want to go to something else here that you had brought up, and it was really intriguing to me as a numbers guy. We had talked about something that you're starting to focus on a little bit, and we specifically talked about how it can help younger people, maybe in their 20s and 30s. Obviously, anybody can do this, but it'd be nice to see as somebody getting older, and I'm kind of establishing my future. It's fun now to help others who are younger help establish their futures. You had talked about some multiplex opportunities, investing opportunities. Can you talk a little bit about what those opportunities are?
Sure. So, I'm not a mortgage broker, and I don't really get into that side of it. But what I think is really, it should be brought into focus, especially for the younger folk, um, is, like FHA loans now you can lend or you can borrow on up to 4 units. And so what's really unique about that is you could buy a 2, 3, 4 unit complex, get an FHA loan, live in one, and literally cash flow the other ones, right? And so, my family has really dove into the real estate world and the real estate industry for the last 50 or 60 years. And so I'm a big believer in that. Um, so there are some opportunities coming up, even if it's like a duplex, and this isn't a pitch, but we're getting ready to build some up in Indian River County, um, where you could move into one and sell the other one and probably cover your entire mortgage. I think it's a little bit of a mindset shift, because it is multifamily and that's a different way of living. But I do think that from a financial growth or looking out into the future, that could be some real good strategy.
I love that because I myself, when I was that age, if I would have been, I just wasn't educated enough. But if I've been educated enough to see that, I was already single. I didn't have kids. I absolutely was living on my own. Why wouldn't I have done something like that? I think that's a beautiful idea. And just it literally takes sitting down with Tony or me or a lender, somebody intelligent enough to run numbers for you. And you can see what are the expected rents, what's my monthly output going to be, and if the input's bigger than the output, you've got yourself a pretty good investment deal there. And all of that math can be done in 30 to 45 minutes with a professional. I think it's so worth it to sit and look at that stuff. Um, are you seeing with stuff like that? I would imagine because it entails, it doesn't entail, I shouldn't say that, because part of the allure is being able to live in one, because you got to make a payment to something no matter what. You can live in one, and then you're able to hopefully break even or maybe even make a little bit of money on the rest of them. What a phenomenal investment, because it's tough. If you go out and you look at purchasing a property right now and you're putting down 3.5%, 5%, and you want to make that cash flow, it's going to be very challenging because rates are where they're at. But when you're living in a portion of it, it really helps that whole situation out. Are you seeing people in their 20s and 30s be more attracted to this, or are you seeing it kind of all over the board when it comes to ages?
Well, the biggest problem we have locally is where is this product, right? And so I think if you go to other parts of the country, I think you see it a little bit more frequently, because we don't have a lot of multifamily product here locally. So I think it's rare, but I do try to keep in touch with, an interesting stat, because I know you like stats, right? So today, the average first time home buyer is 38 years old. Like,
Really?
yeah. So like you and I growing up, right? Like I bought my first house at 22,
Yep.
and here we are years later, right? That number has pushed off to a much later time. And I'll tell you another thing, and I would love to get with a mortgage broker and have this conversation, but veterans that are coming home, right?
Yeah.
So if a veteran comes home from service, I feel that we need to refine that process a little bit better from our industry. But they've missed out on so many years of building equity in their homes that can they buy like a duplex or quadplex with a VA loan? I don't know. But if they could, like, what a great way to get into that wealth building, just a shot of adrenaline. I think that would be wonderful.
I'm looking that up right now. It says, yes, you can use a VA loan to buy a multiplex, also known as multifamily, but there's always going to be requirements, but none of these requirements look abnormal. They look like normal requirements that you're going to have. And I'm just thinking, when I was in Afghanistan, we came home from Afghanistan, and you've got 20, 21, 22-year-old kids who have the rank to be able to live off post, and they just made, maybe their income is 40 grand all year, but they were in Afghanistan all year. They don't have kids, they don't have a wife, so they've got all 40 of that sitting there. And then a lot of times you'll get some sort of signing bonus when you first get into the Army. So these guys might have 50, 60, 70, $80,000 just sitting there. They don't need to worry about paying for college because they've got their GI Bill, and they're going to have to go find something to live in anyway. And a lot of these guys are single, no kids. That would be the perfect situation. I'll tell you what they all do. They go buy the biggest, dumbest truck they possibly could. They load it with the biggest, dumbest stereo system they probably could. And, obviously the value of that just goes straight down over the next 5 to 10 years. So seeing them be able to buy something like this, I think would be beautiful.
For sure.
It makes me wish I was in an area where we had more of those types of opportunities. I'm just thinking all the veterans groups I'm a part of right now, and how could we take advantage of that? That's a phenomenal idea. I've jotted that down. I'm going to look into that. That's a great idea.
Hey, one thing I want you to also think about is, building a custom home, especially for veterans, because many of my family are veterans. But building a custom home, some of these veterans come back and they need some modifications to the home, right? And so through the VA, we can do VACP loans. So we can modify the home to whatever they need and build that house for them. Right. And so that typically, I know Tunnel to Towers does a great job of doing what they do. And we've been involved in many different, modifications to the house. With that said, though, I think that there's a better value to build a new house, exactly what they need. It's always cheaper to do it once instead of tearing it out and doing it
Yeah.
twice. So, there is an avenue for your agents and those people to get with a custom builder and serve those veterans the way they served us.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that that's where your headspace is. It's really meaningful as a veteran. All right. I'm going to ask you one last question. And I know you don't like to prognosticate, but is there anything in 2025 that you see being a new trend or something different? Or maybe you want to talk about where you see prices going or rates going, or just something you feel you've got unique perspective on that would value the people listening?
Well, I don't know if it's unique. So I think I said this to you before, but I really feel that the prices are going to continue to rise, right? And so I've said this for 3 years. If you're looking to buy real estate, you should buy it.
Yeah.
I think that the entire society needs to probably get comfortable with 7% interest rates, because I think that's pretty much a norm. And so I don't like the cliches of like fall in love with the house and date the rate or whatever, but I think that we all just need to get a little bit more realistic. The world going forward is probably going to be in that 7% ish range.
Yeah.
And there's no better time to buy real estate than today, right?
Yep.
So you can't go backwards. All of us would like to go back 20 years and buy lots in Port St. Lucie for 15 grand. We would all love that, right? But can't do it. So the next best is to buy today. And
Yeah.
and I'm confident that over time it's just historical, and it's based on data that it goes up. And even I see the projections now for our local area being 3 to 5%. And so, those are big numbers when you think about how much the house is. And so the one thing that's really great about real estate, and I think a lot of people overlook this, is that 3 or 5%. And we're just going to use some round numbers. Let's
Yep.
say the house is 400,000 and it goes up 5%. I know you're good in math. So how much would that be?
20 grand.
There you go. And so what's beautiful about that is you may have only put $15,000 in this deal. So you made 20,000 on 15,000 in cash.
Yes.
Right. So it is truly just an amazing wealth building tool. And even, I know some people say don't count your house as an asset, but money is money, right? And so if you live in
Yes.
your house and it goes up 100,000, real funny, I just saw on Facebook, I had this memory or whatever it is from like 7 years ago. And we were selling houses for half 7 years ago compared to what they are today.
Isn't that crazy?
Crazy, right? And so back then the house was like 280,000.
Yeah.
So just imagine if you would have put 10 grand, right? So you
On
put
280?
10,000. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So you put
That's about right.
10,000 in, and you wake up 7 years later and you made $250,000.
Yes. Yep.
Just an incredible asset.
Yeah. I love his ambition, but Grant Cardone drives me nuts. And I know he's trying to sell rentals and apartments and all. Like, I get why
Absolutely.
he's saying it, but he has pitched for the last 10 years, 5 years, how dumb of a decision it is to own a single family home. But you have to compare it to the alternative. If the alternative is you're going to live in mom's basement, okay, go live in mom's basement. That's incredibly cheap. Good luck.
Right.
But if you're renting, there's no comparison. It makes no sense to rent unless you're going to live in an area for 2 years or less. In that case, I would say you're going to want to rent. But any other time, 3+ years, it makes so much sense. So don't forget, when people say it's not a great asset, compared to what? Compared to living in mom's basement is one thing, but compared to what you're probably going to do, which is rent, it is another planet of wealth building compared to renting. So I love that you brought that up. Guys, if you want to go see Tony Groza, he's got amazing homes. He's local here. He's been local here forever. Like I said, today's the 39th birthday. So they've been doing this long enough to where you know that people trust and love him. You can go find his homes at grozahomes.com or give him a call at 772-336-7653. Tony, I really appreciate you joining me. And
Thank you.
I appreciate you being a great part of our community. You're a giver, you're a supporter, you're always a part of all the big things in the community. You know, there's people here who make money and there's people here who support and grow and help. And that's certainly you. And it's an absolute honor to know you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. We'll see you next Monday at 11 o'clock. Take care.
See you, Joe.